All right, so thanks to whoever decided to record. Good job.
Naomi.
Lori, I'm going to kick it over to you because I want to know what the laughter was for and kind of what your take on this is.
Well, instructional technology is assistive technology in many ways, but it's universal design for learning too. Everybody should have access to instructional technology. Personal feeling, wrong notebook, personal opinion on that. School districts see it usually two different ways: assistive technology and instructional technology, like you said, because that's just the way it was funded way back when. And that's in the places where I have been, we've had ATACs who are instructional technology, give access to academics, and then we've had our AAC specialist who gives access to communication. So they've split it into two. I go both ways because I'm not a speech therapist. I'm a assistive technology specialist. That's what I am. So
and then what's your background? What's your background? Are you a teacher?
I have my bachelor's in elementary ed, special ed, preschool, triple cert. At the time, my special ed went through high school, that no longer does in this state. Excuse me. I have my master's in assistive technology and AAC.
Okay.
And I have spent many, 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 many years under the tutelage of some of the greatest people ever, in Bill Ziegler and Lauren Enders, and before her, Marie Mark. So I was their mini me's before I branched out with their blessings. So, and Bill gives people access to academics. Lauren gives people access to communication and other means of access.
Okay.
But it shouldn't be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. That's my opinion. My opinion is they should be the same and work together.
Yeah.
But instructional access does fall more under the realm of IT department, because it is programs on computers. It's access to smart, it's not always thought of like we think, like all the AT realm thinks of it.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to give you an example. Have you read up on any of the Alt plus Shift stuff? Well, there isn't somebody from Alt plus Shift here, right?
We both are.
Sarah and I both are.
Tell me what that is.
Well,
You've got two of us, the two AT AAC specialists in the state of Michigan.
And your Alt plus Shift is your tech center, right? That's where I started. That's where I started with assistive technology. I now live in Montana, but my God, I keep going in and out of that.
I'm like, where'd you go?
But anyways,
Is that your ATAC for that state? Is that your okay?
Essentially, yeah. So we are
Okay.
the assistive technology grant through the Michigan Department of Ed. Yeah.
All right. I'm over in New Jersey with Naomi with ATAC and I still have, my heart still also belongs to Patan or Patton, depending on who you are and what part of the state you're in, over in Pennsylvania. So no, I don't have any alt plus shift experience, but welcome. Hello. Nice to know about you.
Well, I've looked over the math because I'm like a STEM person, okay? And I'm really interested in, making sure that the curriculum supports that type of number sense wheel type thing that you guys have. And now our local district, I asked because I do a biking or e-triking with adaptive recreation. And there were some teachers there and they said that for 7 years, they've kind of been doing that number sense wheel in a sense. So, because they do know about the vocabulary and, you have to explain what a number is. I just felt like you should have included. I'm going to talk to Noelle tomorrow You're
Okay.
on mute.
Yep. Sorry, I know. Yeah, I realized that as soon as I said, so you're talking with Noelle tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did this whole thing. I was gonna do. I keep starting something and it falls through, but tomorrow, supposedly, cross my fingers, I will have a virtual OT position in Washington schools. And but before I was going to work with Calico Arts Center. I'm kind of like up in years. I'm 67 years old. So it's like, oh, full-time work. I don't know. But anyway, that took it because we need it. But anyways, I was going to do a project because they were going to do a new curriculum and they wanted to teach in our school district, they wanted to teach the teachers. And I think I'm going to have to change this background to maybe blur my background. There you go. And they wanted to change the curriculum. So they wanted to teach teachers, but they didn't want the kids out of school. So they wanted us to do like projects, like the same workshop 3 times. They had 99 classrooms. So I wrote out this thing where, oh boy, I don't know if I can get it. Yeah.
It's
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Kinda can see it.
Yeah. Well, anyways, and then I got, the sites and everything and all kinds of things I've done in the past for art and STEM projects. So I'd like to, integrate that into, well, I integrate it into OT, like say like batteries. Okay. I take old batteries and I do, okay, which ones are in a voltmeter and which ones are good and which ones are bad. And I do this with kindergarten kids, first grade kids. And then that's how I can, get if they're really having audio, they're really good with the audio processing because, oh, that's 0.06. And then I'll say something else and I go, which one was bad? You remember the number? And somebody, she's really having trouble with writing and everything. Somebody says, oh, it's 0.06. Silent blue, so she's like really on top of it when everybody thought she was really low everywhere. It's not the case. But anyways, I just I'm probably going on a tangent, but they definitely they're zoning in on math. Okay, so that's a good reason for me to guide them to this website. But I said, well, I'm talking with Noelle, tomorrow, and is there any questions? And they're really recalcitrant about not wanting instructional technology, just only assistive technology. Apps are okay, but not instructional technology. So I guess the integration of that, to me, it seems important because I also, when I looked through all the tapes at the math, and it's helping people with disabilities with time management, with reading the clock, with budget, all those things that as an OT I'm working on. So I feel that's important. But anyways, that's my spiel.
Yeah, so I'm excited for you to talk to Noelle. Noelle is our math accessibility specialist, Lori. That's who Noelle is if you keep hearing her name. And Mary, it sounds like you got onto our website and we're looking at our quick wins. So we did what's called a quick win. This is kind of part of what we started when I came onto the project 3 years ago, is trying to think about, we have a lot of people who want to shift their practices, but they don't know where to start. Or sometimes you get this big picture of, here are all the things that I need to do. And that's really why these quick wins were designed, is it's something that's easy to pick up. and to start today. So even if you're able to find one teacher who's like, you know what, I'm ready to try something a little bit different. What I've been doing isn't making the outcomes for kids that I want. Use Noelle as a resource, but also know that that's kind of the intent behind these, is something that's quick. I'm going to put this in air quotes, guys, relatively easy to implement and get started today.
Yeah. When I started out with you guys, with St. John's, it was called M something way back in 99 or something like that. Started with an M, I forget, but it wasn't called Alt Shift anymore.
Was it the Michigan Integrated Technology, like MITS? Yes,
probably. There's not even more MITS. Yeah, MITS.
Yeah, MITS, that's it. And they had instructional technology. There was an educational technologist there. So that's where this is important. But yeah. But that's where I started, and that's what that's where I was really excited about instructional technology in addition to assistive technology. But I don't know exactly how to integrate it or convince resident K-12 people. He did, Dan, Dan Cochran, do you know him?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Mike Murata knows him. And he did research it. And he has a place where, if it's a cognitive resource, then it's not assistive technology or some, he's saying stuff like, because you have to have a comprehension and we can't help you with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't agree with that.
Well, and I think sometimes what we found is it takes ongoing conversations with people and kind of showing them examples and talking about specific students and challenging their thinking over time. It sounds like that's kind of a very big shift for them. And so a little bit of Carolyn's gonna laugh. She's laughing right now because she probably knows where I'm going with this one.
Yeah.
But really showing the why behind like that need for the shift and what the impact is for students. I think sometimes we want this like one conversation because we know we want what's best for students.
Right.
But just circling back to that same conversation again, or saying, hey, I tried it with this group of students or this teacher, and this has been the outcome. I wonder what that might look like in other classrooms or for other learners. It happens over time.
He went to ISTE too. And he goes, well, this is just totally different than assistive technology. So, yeah.
And Carolyn's favorite word, guys, is yet. So she would throw in there, you're not there yet. But just, keep going, keep coming back to this group for ideas. And maybe when everybody is not at closing the gap, other people will have had the same conversation in their districts and they can give you a little bit of guidance on how they moved forward.
Because I really think ATPs should understand the instructional technology. They both as a speech therapist needs to understand it. An occupational therapist really needs to understand it. I think an assistive technology person needs to understand where they're going and is it helping the kids with special needs? I don't know. So
I think partly what Lori was talking about earlier is that it's more of that UDL approach, because we don't know who could also benefit from some of the technology in that class.
that's true. That's true.
And that is where those conversations really play a role,
Yeah, because there's kids falling through the cracks type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think finding those early adopters, those ones who are really interested in looking for change, there are going to be some that are set in their ways. They'll come along when administrators make them change, but there might be some teachers out there now who are looking to, zhuzh up their classrooms and have a little bit more fun. And those would be the ones I would target.
Early adapters, okay. Like, for instance, like, I started this class, but my brother-in-law passed away suddenly, aortic aneurysm. And so I didn't finish, but it was called 1D to 3D science. You guys know that? Okay. And I thought that was great, starting a notebook when you're in kindergarten. If you could be consistent throughout all the way, just imagine how well that is going to be as a lab notebook in the 12th grade. If you start in kindergarten, you know, I you know, I feel like I'm dominating. I'll spout out for a while.
That's the point of having an open conversation. I think. So Tammy, welcome. It's we're just kind of all chatting and seeing what's on our minds because there's not really an agenda with people going on vacation and people heading to Closing the Gap. So we're just chatting about instructional technology and AT and all the fun.
Yeah, I think like part of that conversation needs to be, helping educators understand the focus of the goal, providing access and the tools that are available versus those that need to be customized solutions and possibly procured. Because then if you're looking at technology as purely like technology, what we use every day technically could be assistive because now they're universally designed. So ed tech now comes with, accessibility features that we prefer, but other people need.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I think because we all live in this world, like we're all nodding our heads in agreement with you. But I think sometimes we need to have those conversations with people and then give them time to like sit back and really think about what does that look like in my classroom? What does that look like for me as a learner? And then helping them make those connections in an ongoing way.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the other thing is, as you were talking about early adopters versus, maybe innovators or laggards, I'm assuming you're talking about the continuum of technology adoption. I think part of what happens, what could happen is the problem solving around, as we're looking at the IEP or the 504 or what have you, and we're thinking about access, in what ways are they problem solving with the tools that are most available for them? Because it could be no tech solutions, it could be low tech solutions, or it could be high tech solutions. But then it goes further into what's the best solution for that activity and based on the goal, which would pull in the UDL that you were talking about. So yeah, it's like, I think it's just basically problem solving. And again, having people at the table with different perspectives so that as a multidisciplinary team, you're coming up with transdisciplinary practices that can be implemented by everyone.
I love that you brought up the multiple perspectives and that idea of everyone coming together. I was just involved in a meeting a few weeks ago where the social studies teacher was doing something very different than what the science teacher was doing, which was incredibly different than ELA. And they'd never had an opportunity to all come together and say, okay, what are the tools that we're using? What's available to students? How could we make sure that what I'm doing is similar to what you're doing? Because this poor little guy had like 6 or 7 different apps that he was using, and some classes were Google Classroom, and he's somebody that really struggles with executive functioning. So talk about how big of a struggle that is. And what it really took was just everyone coming together to sit into one room and have that conversation. And unfortunately, I think sometimes we don't recognize the value, or we're all running in so many different directions that meeting seems so much harder. But 2 weeks later, the result of it is everyone's feeling like, wow, we're finally all doing the same thing. And the student is doing so much better in their classes.
Yeah. And I feel like the common complaint that fuels that issue is everybody is so worried about time, but if you make the time, the results are phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Time for you to learn or time for you to change or be flexible?
Oh, that's a good question,
Yeah.
right? Coming together as a team, I've learned so much from everyone else at the table, whether it's I by training, I'm a speech language pathologist, but I also have an AT certificate, not through RESNA. So I'm not an ATP, but like that was like pre them. But the way that I've engaged with other people, it allows me to either ask better questions or be, like I say, implementing things that are influenced by my collaborative partners, whether it's OT, PT, teachers, I've learned from each and every one of them. So even team meetings, because I'm engaged and listening, I learn from, what works for the student, what didn't work for the student, problem solving around the things that don't work. Like what was the best method of access? Should they have been seated a different way? Should we be organizing things because they have executive function or executive dysfunctions that we then need to be mitigating through organizational strategies or other tools that are actually naturally occurring within, some of the content that's being taught within classrooms. Like the e-textbooks are amazing, because they have a lot of those built-in features, but sometimes the teachers aren't taking advantage of them in a way that all the students have access to it, but the teachers aren't necessarily highlighting it. So I don't know. I'm not a teacher. I can't necessarily say what they could be doing, but there are lots of tools that are available to the students that, I don't know, could be emphasized a little bit more as resources or available. And I do talk about this only because, like with ADHD or with executive function, I have two children. They both are very different ADHD profiles. So I was able to like get a glimpse into what they do in order to like really kind of tease out, like, am I just full of shit because I'm a provider thinking, I know what I'm talking about? Or, is this stuff really available? And, from a homework perspective, it's interesting, to have like both sides of it where you're like diving a little bit deeper and seeing both sides.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I have dyslexia, or I don't know, something like that. I have audio processing problems, and the technology has helped me. I use captions all the time, and when I study, I was very persistent. Okay. And that's what pulled me through. But I would highlight everything, and then people were like, whoa, you got the whole book highlighted. But that was how I was getting the information in my head. But I mean,
well, whatever's not highlighted is not important, right?
right. Everything was important. But I don't know. Yeah. And that's the only technology I had at the time when I was,
You are not alone in the multicolored highlighting universe.
Yeah.
If you looked at any of my textbooks, none of them could be sold back.
Yeah. So I guess I'm passionate about this because I have issues myself. I burned my leg when I was 4. This was getting, but I was like traumatized, and it could be the trauma, it could be anxiety or something like that. But I'm in a very competitive family, so I learned to put on your boots and pick up your bootstraps, and get on with life. But that could be affecting why I have such difficulty concentrating, and I can go off on a tangent. But yeah, so I just think that there's a lot of kids like that. There's a lot of kids that are traumatized,
Yeah.
the same issues.
And Mary, the other thing that you can also consider is the things that we're the most efficient at doing are the things that we've had the most practice at, the most time engaged in. And it's just a matter of like, how do we then, when things are hard, start to focus so that things become easier, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll give you some apps so that it's not a waste of time. Does everybody know about Kiwi, Kiwi, right? Oh, y'all know about that. Oh, you're on mute, Natalie.
I only just heard about it within the last, I don't know if it's relatively new, but I only just heard about it like within the last week or
It
a week
is.
and a half. Yeah.
It's in a
Mhm.
beta,
Yeah.
beta
Okay.
format right
Yeah.
now.
So
So,
it sounds promising.
yeah.
Mary, could you explain it a bit more? Because even though we are a little familiar, people who are watching the recording might not be
Well,
familiar.
it's basically a calculator on the left side. And then you can go into different modes. So, just addition, you can go all the way to algebra, trig, all that. So, but they make all the symbols and they type it out for you, basically. So you're not handwriting. So you're working on math skills and not working on dysgraphia. So everything's aligned.
I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going to Closing the Gap. I don't know if anybody here is going to be
Oh.
there, but yeah, maybe we'll connect. But I do know that Kiwi Write is going to be they're going to be there, I think, or they're either going to have a booth or whatever. So I had made a note in my notes about Closing the Gap to go and visit, because I'm all the time looking for things that I can find at the center, to be able to display and to show people that come in, but also students who are going to be teaching math and whatever things with math concepts. So it was definitely something I was going to follow up on at Closing the Gap.
All right, one more thing. I'll give it to you. I was supposed to actually be a salesperson for this company, but they're going through reorg. I don't know. Everything's going like, I thought something's coming together, and then, anyways, it's called Avail by Connect Reach. Have everybody heard of that? No. Okay. It's task analysis, and they do it in all different formats. So video, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you're trying to do a task analysis for a kid. Video, pictures, ASL, all kinds of picture representation, anything you want. Actually, I'm sure you could talk to them about if you have some weird picture representation, text, audio. And then it's editable, it's customizable, and it also a data collector. I think it's like $50 a month for a student, or you could do it institutional wise. And I don't know what that price is. So just trying to contribute.
So like
Any
Carolyn said, in Mike fashion, you guys, this is kind of an open forum. Did anyone else, we kind of got on the topic of UDL and ed tech versus IT. Does anyone have anything that you guys came here today really hoping to talk about?
Just glad to be back with everybody.
We're glad you're here. At first it was just Carolyn and I, and we're like, do.
I just know I've been really busy. I think the startup of the quarter, especially, I don't know, the universities always start a little later than the public schools. So maybe you all have been in it for a little while longer, but I just get this sense that people are still figuring out how to be together, and especially on a, kind of a larger campus kind of thing like that. And I don't know if it's because it's been so like working from home or working this weird hybrid schedule for the last couple of years, but now that we're pretty much fully present, it just seems incredibly busy to me. I feel like a scatterbrain, honestly, and I people ask how I'm doing, and I'm like, well, do you want an honest answer? Because the honest answer is, I'm just feel like I'm working minute by minute, like just putting out fires and that sort of thing. So, and that's a relatively new, I don't like to feel that way, and I rarely operate like that way. Not that I'm a control freak per se, but I feel like I'm definitely more organized as a rule than I feel like I have been now. So I don't really feel like I have anything to offer or to bring. I was just kind of just connecting, just saying hey.
Yeah, I think I'm
and
going to
seeing
be in
some
that.
friendly faces.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be in that same situation. I start tomorrow, and I'm virtual with a coda. So I've done virtual before, but that was with parents, and that was kind of frustrating. But I'm glad I have a coda on the other end, but I haven't done the standardized, normalized evaluations, so I'm a little bit nervous about that and studying that. But yeah,
Natalie, I think that feel of putting out fires is common now, which is unfortunate. So Sarah and I we're a state level grant. So, but we partner with school districts. And so we're constantly talking with them and just checking in. And it seems like most people, administrators, teachers, ancillary staff, they're all kind of frazzled because they're constantly being pulled to do more things, or new students are moving in and they didn't have technology before. And I don't think anyone really likes the putting out minute to minute fires.
right.
So I'm sorry you're feeling that way. And I'm sure the fact that everything's in person again, it's more difficult because it's not like it's like, okay, log off here, stay in your spot, but log on to a new meeting. You can kind of shift gears quicker than, oh, I've got to get to this building and now I've got to plan my lunch somewhere and all of that.
And I think too, the other part is the students that we're welcoming back into buildings have changed. Yeah. From the time before.
Oh, that's true too.
A conversation this morning with a friend who's a special ed administrator. And she was just saying, we're seeing so many more students who have such high anxiety. And like they are struggling to cope with being just in class and being around people and that close to people, and trying to really figure out like what is the root cause of that anxiety and how do we as educators really come in and support that at the same time that so many of our staff have that same level of anxiety. And I think that's something that we're all still in. Our family life is different. I mean, I don't know about you, but one of the benefits of COVID was life slowed down so much. I think we all recognize now how fast we were going before COVID. And there are so many times for me personally where I'm like, I just want to go back to that bubble of just being present with my family. So I think there's a multitude, but when you were talking about how you just feel like you're running, everyone on this call was like nodding their heads like, yes, I feel like that too. So we can't provide any answers or solution, but just know that we're all in the same boat,
I'm not alone. And
Yeah.
I think, Sarah, what you said speaks so true to just the underlying stress that's kind of everywhere. I think everybody's feeling it, and this whole sense of having to learn how to navigate in a larger population for like these sustained periods of time. So like before, you might go to a large thing and be there for 10 or 15 minutes, like a grocery store or whatever, but then you come back and then you're home and it's a much more isolated. But now it's like you're on campus all day, or all these things. So it's kind of, and you're interacting with a lot of people all day. So I think it's kind of this sustained figuring out how to relearn your energy sources again. At least that's for me. It's like I feel like I love the energy. Oh my gosh, I just love the energy of having people around and the ideas, like that in-person connection. It's really, really great. But at the same time, I feel it's draining. And I feel like I have to kind of relearn, okay, what was it that I did to kind of recharge myself again? So it's just this process. And I kind of feel like myself, and I know other people I've talked to, we're giving anybody, like we're thinking this quarter, like this quarter is going to be like this kind of introductory navigational kind of time and not expecting a whole lot, or kind of easing back into it. And again, this is kind of more at the university level. So the public schools might be a little different because I think a lot of the schools went back to more in-person learning last year on a more kind of normal or whatever level. But at least at my university, we did not. And it's only been since this quarter that it has been. So yeah, I figure I'm having to kind of relearn some things for myself, as well as, you know, relearning with people around me as well. But I will say one thing that's great this quarter is that, and it kind of goes back to, I came in late, so I came on late into the conversation a little bit late, talking about some supports tools and maybe some UDL things. I'm partnering with one of the instructors who does, it's a first block. And in first block in this education program, they basically have like a 1 day or 1.5 day practicum where the students go out into a classroom. And then they have to, over the course of the quarter, they'll have to teach 3 lessons to a small group of students, to where final block is like they're doing more, it's like the preparation for their student teaching. So I paired with her this quarter, and we're doing in this 2-hour-a-week block of time, we're kind of doing a co-teaching thing where she's helping them figure out how to write their lesson plans, you know, how to design their instructions so that they get the concepts that they need, you know, reinforced and that kind of stuff. Then I'm going in and doing some instruction and support with looking at the Universal Design for Learning guidelines, and not so much teaching them how to use those, but how to recognize what they're already doing and where that kind of fits in. So, and I'm super excited about it because I've heard on this group and with other groups is that that's something that seems to be missing in a lot of classrooms, is people just don't know how to maybe provide supports for all learners, right? To help reduce the barriers for all learners. They're just focused on whether they have a 504 IEP. So it's been a really great experience. It's just a group of like 15 students. They're super receptive. They're getting it. Like there's, you know, one thing we wanted to reiterate, it's not that you have to learn all these guidelines and add it to what you already know. Chances are you're doing things already that can be, that the guidelines, you know, talk to are supported. So we really wanted to make that connection that it's not like you have to learn something new. Just be aware that these are here, but look and see what you're doing. And then it just gets reinforced that yes, you are already doing things to reduce barriers for all learners. And it's been really it's been fun for me to kind of get more involved in that close student contact. And it's been really, and I think the students have been really receptive and really appreciative of it as well. So, so that by the time they get into final block and start doing some student teaching, they'll have some foundations kind of in this area as well.
Yeah, I love that. Carolyn and I have recently been having a lot of conversations about college prep and how do we make sure that we're having an impact on those conversations? Because we're seeing a lot of educators that come out who really are still unfamiliar with UDL or what that looks like. So if you're willing, like I would love for you to come back at the end of the semester and say, here are some things that I learned. This is maybe something I would do differerly, or if you're going to have opportunities, like this is a great place to start. Because I think that's a lot when we talk about UDL and we just talk to a lot of teachers, they're feeling that overwhelmed too. And I love how you said this isn't something that you're doing in addition to, it's really a framework for how you think about what you're going to provide and how you're going to provide that. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to kind of come like share like a synopsis of, you know, how the quarter went, how we got started, how it kind of went. Because even though, you know, this is something at the university level, it's definitely, I think, something that could be done in small group instruction for professional learning communities or professional development within your own cohort of, you know, either teachers you work with at a school, or if you're an SLP, groups of SLPs, you know, stuff like that. I definitely think it's things that can be considered for every, you know, in those small cohorts. So yeah, it's been a positive thing.
And when you say first block, my head goes to like you're talking incoming freshmen who are just getting their feet wet with this idea of teaching, or what does that look like?
So first block here, they've been accepted into the College of Education. So usually that happens around, I think they apply freshman year. So they already have like a lot of their GURs out of the way. So they're pretty much focusing only on the education program. And so they're either, a lot of them are like doing a dual certification, so general ed and special education. And so, but they all have to, so this class, I think it's sped for, so it's basically, they're in their last year. So it's a 400 level class. But it's basically an introduction to teaching. And it's basically a lot about, learning like framing lesson plans and stuff like that. So they are special education. They want to be special ed teachers, but it's not necessarily special education course content. Specifically, it's really more about teaching, because they've kind of gotten a lot of the other sped content already, or they will, and they still will. But it really is kind of about theories and practice of teaching. So understanding lesson plans, how to write them up, how to make sure you're addressing, these things that you need to do. So, and the cool thing too, which I think, Tammy, you mentioned different perspectives, is when I introduce myself, I say, because I'm an OT by trade, I tell them, so I'm going to offer a different perspective than, the Beth or Laura will, the two kind of co-teachers with me, because they are teachers, they have been teachers. So they look at things through a different lens. I look at from a related service provider lens. And so I'll be able to give you a different perspective of that. And I think that's really been helpful too for them to kind of to hear my perspective paired with the other instructors' perspectives, especially because they might not make sense of it now because they haven't been out there, they haven't been teaching, but I think they kind of they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. So I think overall, it's going to help them be a little more well-rounded.
I was in a teacher prep chapter 58, they call it, in Montana. And they did not have educational technology at all. And they would only put in assistive technology on the transition part for, special education. And then they were giving me, saying that the special education teacher was not a case manager, which every time I run into it, I kind of run into that they were a case manager, but I don't know. But they didn't have the education, and they were resistant to bring it in, even though they've been through the COVID experience, So I don't know. So there's a lot of challenges with that right now, I think.
Does anyone else have anything that you guys are hoping to kind of chat about or to talk about?
I'm just here to engage in the conversation and hear what everybody else is interested in.
Same. I know we're excited to welcome Mike back from the Southwest. In case he's watching this video, we hope that you had a great trip. And I'm sure he'll tell us all about it when he comes back next week.
And I'm hoping next week will be great because everyone will be coming back from Closing the Gap. So Natalie, I'm looking to you to report back and share some really great resources and takeaways. Tammy, are you able to go this year? No, same.
No, we can only pick one that my organization will pay for. So I'm going to ATIA because there's a group of us that I'm part of a group that prefers warmer weather in January than, like snow and
Minneapolis.
Oh yeah, ATIA is great, with that.
Although
sometimes they have that polar.
It was freezing last year.
Yeah, I was there last year
Yeah.
and it was cold. It was like windy
Yeah.
and 40 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
But
was a one-
the hot tub still feels
Yeah,
nice.
that's
It was
true.
still cold. The iguanas were falling out of the trees last year. So it was very, very cold at ATIA.
People were wrapped in beach towels and blankets at Disney. They were
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
cold. I mean, they were
Wow.
cold.
We bought sweatshirts at Disney Springs. Like
I
that
have,
was
I have
our-
my big sweater. I can't wait till it gets cold to wear my sweater. I have a big, bulky Disney sweater. And
Columbia had a line out the door because people were buying winter coats because that's how cold it was. So we wish you warmer weather this year, Tammy, because it was
Yeah.
a little chilly. But I'm in the Upper Peninsula and we have a storm warning today and it's super windy and up north into the Keweenaw, they were predicting up to 2 feet of snow today.
Yeah, I heard that.
So yeah, it's a little chilly. I don't think I'd want to go to Minneapolis right now, except that Closing the Gap is there. I would say
Right.
that. So
It's still beautiful in Montana.
there you go.
We usually don't have this kind of weather. It usually fall out September 1st, it snows. And it's, rainy, yucky weather. We've had a beautiful Indian summer this year. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I broke the bank too, Lori, so.
yeah,
not
this will be
doing
the
any
first
conferences.
year in almost 10 years. No, I'm sorry, COVID. We didn't go during COVID. That we won't count that year. This will be
Yeah.
like the first year in 10 years that I'm not in person at ATIA, but we just can't, there's just too much. We just can't swing it this year. So I'll be there and virtually. Everybody can show me their phone, video for me. Take me around as a head. But I do enjoy that little
Congratulations on the
warm-
wedding, though.
Mhm.
Thank you. It was perfect. It was
Yeah,
absolutely
great.
perfect. Anyway, that's not for now. Yeah, anyway, I do understand that I didn't understand why everybody went to Florida until I went to my first ATIA. It was 89 degrees the week I was there. So yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, good. So with that, you guys, hopefully next week our Closing the Gap friends will come back and share some of the learning that they have. And then Tammy, in January, we're going to be coming, or February, we'll be coming back to you to share out from ATIA. But in the meantime, we hope you guys have a great week. And we'll see you guys back here next week.
Thank you for coordinating this meeting. We appreciate it.
You did an awesome job.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. When Mike reaches out, I feel like you have to say yes, because he does so much for everybody. So awesome. Have a great day, you guys.
You too.
Nice hooking up with you again. Thank you.